What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the unemployment numbers coming out alongside payrolls. And another big piece of news just came out involving the port strikes that could be a little bit more positive for the markets. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon in just 4 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as Tesla goes, we have big data coming out for tomorrow. It's going to affect the share price. We are looking a little bit more bearish in terms of our trend, but we still could get a bounce depending on how things go for tomorrow. Now, we do have one catalyst for the market that's a little bit more bullish, but there is something else that is going to be just as important that could still turn things the other way. So we'll just have to wait and see what the market prioritizes. Will Tesla get a rug pull and lose 238 to start dipping to 235 and then eventually down to about 232 to this gap support? Or will Tesla see a big bounce, try to break past 248? I'll give you guys some answers starting now. Let's first talk about some data. Tomorrow is going to be Friday, October 4th, 2024. Please note that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 hour before the market opens, we have very important jobs numbers coming out. We have the unemployment rate coming out. This is going to be, this is going to be the most important individual piece of data. We're expecting 4.2 to 4.3% for unemployment. If it's somewhere in that range, it could be okay. If it's above 4.4%, that's going to be more bearish. So we'll see. We also have the non-farm, governmental, manufacturing, payrolls also coming out. That's going to cause high volatility, so get ready for all of that. So the main time for volatility is an hour before market open at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time for extra clarification. For the New York Stock Exchange, that's the time they use. So we'll see how things go with all this data that's coming out. For SPY, we have 568 as max pain, a 2.18 puts to call ratio. We have 220,000 of these calls expiring and about 480,000 of the puts. So right now, the majority positions are in puts, but it's not that crazy compared to other weeks. Also, the market expects a 36.7% chance we get a 50 basis point cut by the Fed right now, and about a 36% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. This could be impacted by unemployment. Now, we have that as our main piece of news for tomorrow, at least so far. Unemployment numbers are going to be very important, but there is another catalyst that's been a little bit more bullish so far. So just a couple of minutes ago, this just came out right now. What's happening is the port strikes have ended as workers are agreeing upon a tentative deal on wages and contract extensions. So this is some big news. What's happening is the Union for U.S. Dock Workers and United States Maritime Alliance have agreed to tentative deals on wages. They've extended their existing contracts through January of 2025 to provide time to negotiate a new contract. And the move is ending a strike that had snarled the East and Gulf Coast ports since the beginning of the week. That was threatening U.S. supply chains for automobiles, fruits, and many other things like that, like toilet paper, commodities, and the list goes on. So very, very big news. This is a good piece of news for the markets now because remember, this was affecting all kinds of companies like Samsung, Walmart, Apple, and the list goes on. So this is pretty optimistic. This could actually help the market to some extent, but will it be enough to really cause a big bounce? I'm not as sure because we have another factor which is going to still be these unemployment numbers right here. Now, another big piece of news involves Israel. So we saw crude oil being impacted by a lot of comments involving Israel potentially retaliating against Iran after everything that happened throughout the week. Let me just say that this goes back, many, many years, the whole history between these countries. And we'll see what Israel does. If they do end up targeting Iranian energy infrastructure, that could be more negative for crude, causing it to go up, and a little bit more negative for the markets. If not, if nothing happens by tomorrow, this might not affect the market as much. So we're just waiting to see if there is some kind of move by tomorrow. Be very, very patient. Now let's talk about Tesla. Why did Tesla dip? We had some negative news that came out. Okay, so Tesla basically has announced that their top executive is leaving just days before the robotaxi event. So right over here, his name is Nagesh Saldi. I may be saying the name wrong, but he's the CIO of Tesla. He is basically going to be resigning, unfortunately. It's very, very sad news. He was a great employee, and he didn't really give a particular reason. It's just like private personal matters, which is completely understandable. So I just want to say I wish the best for Mr. Saldi. His work has been very, very amazing and appreciated. And I hope that Tesla finds another great employee like him. And I hope he finds another great place for his work as well. On top of this, I want to mention that JP Morgan just raised their price target on Tesla, but they're still expecting a crash. So what does this mean? They're saying that for December of 2025, they're expecting Tesla to basically dip to about $130 a share. They used to say it's going to dip to $115 a share. So that's what their target is. They could be wrong, guys. We can't say that for sure, considering how much potential there is in Tesla. Could there be a dip coming to Tesla next year? It's possible because of the recession, but for now, we're not worried about that. As of right now, Tesla's holding up nicely and it could still try to push approaching the robotaxi event. Volume is at 80 million, which is a little bit below average. Volume is slowing down. Cantor Fitzgerald gave us a neutral rating, and the price price ratio is dipping as Tesla's losing some strength. In terms of seasonality, Tesla's green only about 49% of the time on Fridays, and we tend to see more volatility at 11 a.m. and also around this 1 p.m. period. So watch for that. We'll see how things go for Tesla from this point on. But with that being said, guys, let's now just kind of like focus more on the charts and less on this data. What on earth is happening to Tesla in the markets? What is my opinion so far? So, just to be frank, a lot of what happens is going to hinge upon what happens with unemployment. I know we got a positive piece of news with the strikes basically ending, but that's not everything. That's not the only thing affecting us. Unemployment is going to be a big factor as well. That's why I think it's very important to pay attention to that. If Tesla bounces, you could argue you have like a falling wedge like structure. You could argue that, but I'm not going to guarantee anything. If we try to bounce tomorrow, okay, we're just going to focus on levels and less on patterns. If we get a bounce, you want to see Tesla break past 247 to turn bullish and start pushing for the 250s. If we're bearish, you want to see it basically lose 238. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip down to this imbalance at 232, and eventually where this gap fill would take us all the way down to like 229. So what do I think is going to happen? We do look more bearish so far, but I do want to mention that in all honesty, I think Tesla has a possible falling wedge. So it technically has this developing. This does look like a falling wedge to me. So we will see if this ends up, panning out for Tesla or not. We'll see if this ends up developing. So I'm going to be very, very patient with this. I think I could actually redraw it just like this, just for like more clarification. But if this wedge ends up playing out for Tesla and this thing continues to try to bounce, that could lead to a very, very big move. This could try to rebound tomorrow if this ends up getting what it needs, because the port workers news is some big news. We'll see with unemployment numbers will it cause a bounce or dump in the markets. Tesla technically has a bullish structure developing, but nothing is guaranteed until we see a break above this resistance. So we need a 244 to break for this to really pan out, for this to really start pushing. If we don't break that, we're at risk of dipping below 238. If that fails us, I think we get another rug pull all the way down to like the 232 area. So it could go either way, but that's going to depend a lot on what happens with all this data. So please be very, very open-minded for that. All right. Going back, I want to call out SPY. SPY currently is in a very, very critical area. If SPY is bearish, you want to see it basically lose 565. If that fails us, we're going to be dumping all the way down to 562. If we're bullish, you want to break past 570. If that breaks, we're looking for a push for 572 as well. So it could go either way as it depends on unemployment. Let me just call out that we had a high here. We came down, we had a lower high, came down. We tried to bounce today and reject off our 20 EMA. So that's showing some weakness. So technically speaking, it does favor downside a little bit more. It favors that it wants to be dipping to the lower 560s, but I can't guarantee that until we see the data. Right now, it's very neutral. It's in the middle, so it could go either way. So we will see what the data tells us just to determine which way this thing is going to be going. For ES, we look more bearish. We've been continuing to fall, making lower highs. However, it's trying to base at 57.25. So despite this bearish trend on it, if we lose 57.25, this thing is going to be dumping all the way down to about 5,700 flats. If we break past our EMAs at 57.63, we're looking for a rebound for about 5,800. My gut is trying to tell me that this may attempt to retest the EMAs and then possibly reject and just remain range bound. We'll see if we get some kind of bounce or not, depending on how the data goes. But be very patient nonetheless, and we'll see what happens as we have a lot of stuff coming out. So be very mindful of the fact that there's more data coming out. The data could cause either a bounce or a rug pull, so we have to be very patient. For Nvidia, we're trying to rebound so far. It has not shown signs of rejection. If this is bullish, you want to break past 124 to start pushing for 126. If we're bearish, you want to see Nvidia basically reject and start dipping lower, lose 190 to start dipping to about 117. We're holding support, we're bouncing, we held support, we're bouncing, so it looks like it might try to go for 125 tomorrow. So there's potential for this to try to rebound, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. For Bitcoin, it looks to me like Bitcoin's going to try to bounce. If we break past 61,000, we're looking for basically 61,700. If we end up losing support at 60,000, we're going to be looking for a dip back down to 59,000. It looks like it might be trying to rebound for 61,500, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. So be very patient nonetheless. For NQ, we're in the middle right now. If we're bullish, you want to break past 20,050, past the 50 EMA to push for 20,200. If we're bearish, you want to lose 19,800 flat to start dumping to 19,000. Sorry, did I say 18,000? I mean 19,900 has to break, and then we'll be dipping to 19,700. To me, it's looking like it's trying to consolidate right now. We'll see if we get a bounce or not off this. It could go either way. We're just completely indecisive. So we're just waiting to see what happens with these unemployment numbers. For the QQQ, I think the 4 hour is kind of flat right now. If we break 483, we're going to be pushing back up for 488. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 479 to start tipping back down towards 474. My gut tells me we may attempt just to consolidate. It could go either way. It's completely indecisive. And we'll see which way we break to determine what the bigger move is going to be. For Apple, technically speaking, okay, we look like we're in the middle. It was trying to rebound at the end of the day. If we're bullish, you want to break past 226.9, start pushing for 228. If we're bearish, you want to reject and start dipping all the way down towards 224. It could go either way as it's in the middle, but I do favor upside. I think 227 might be coming to Apple looking at this chart. For Palantir, this is looking more bullish as we made a very, very nice break and attempt to get back up to the 40 area. So far it's doing a good job, and this is suggesting that upside's looking a little bit more probable. So I think Palantir looks more bullish, and 40 is very, very probable. We'll see if this continues to pump, so look and see if we end up breaking resistance. So we'll see how this ends up going. For Supermicro, we're stuck in the middle right now. If we continue to reject off this key EMA right here, if we don't hold above 42, we're looking for a dip back down to 40. If we break that, we're looking for 43. We're in the middle, but this does have a risk of coming back down. Looking at the technicals at this rejection, so 40 becomes a stronger possibility. For Rivian, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now, rejecting off our 15, 20 EMAs like this. If we break 10.92, we could attempt to start pushing for 11.56. If we reject here, we could be dipping back down towards the $10 area. We might be looking for 10.92 as our resistance, so it might attempt to rebound. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. I think that 10.92 is coming for a bounce tomorrow. And if that breaks, we could be approaching the 11s. But we'll see if we get a rejection again. Look for a little bit of a pop tomorrow morning, and then we'll see what happens after the unemployment numbers come out. For SoFi looks a little bit more bullish. We could be looking for 7.96 as our target. If we hold above 7.8, we're looking for 7.96 to 8. If we lose that, we're looking for a dip back down towards 7.6. So we will see which way this ends up going. But SoFi is looking a little bit more bullish. For the IWM, we are dipping right here. We're looking at our support at the 200 EMA. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 212. If this holds, we could try to rebound for 218. We will see if we hold this 200 EMA. We're just barely testing support, so it could go either way. If it loses that, we're looking for that gap fill below. If not, we could be looking for 218. As of right now, we're holding support, so we have to lose support for confirmation for downside. If it does not lose the support, it will bounce. So make that in your mind, make that very, very clear. We will bounce if we hold that support. For AMT, we're in the middle. If we end up losing 159, we're looking for a dip all the way down to about 155. If we hold support, we could try to rebound for this resistance around this 165 area. So we have dipped a little bit. It's possible we're forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. So this could be forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders like this, where it tries to rebound. We'll see if that ends up being the case. I'm going to be very patient with this. Might dip a bit, and we'll see if we get a bounce. But overall, it's in the middle. For ARM, I think that if we lose 137.31, we could be dipping back down towards 135. If we try to rebound, we're looking for 140. It might attempt to get up to 140, so we will see how things end up going. For Coinbase, we look a little bit weaker, but we're barely trying to base around this 162 area. If 162 holds tomorrow, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 167. If we end up losing 162, we could be dipping back down towards the lower levels down here, like 156. So, in my opinion, with the way things are moving, we're a little bit more bearish on this downtrend. If we hold 160, we could attempt to rebound for this resistance around 168, and we'll see how things end up going. But in my personal opinion, I think that there's a very, very good chance that this could attempt to hold 162. If Bitcoin gets a bounce, I think that Coinbase is going to likely try to follow it. They have been tagging one another quite a bit. For Amazon, after the news about the port strike, this is trying to rebound so far. So after this news just came out about the port strike ending, this is going to affect stocks like Amazon. So Amazon's trying to rebound. Now, the unemployment numbers could affect us, but my gut tells me we might try to push for 185 tomorrow. So it looks like it's trying to hold its 200 EMA. If we hold 182.8, we're going to be looking for 185. If we lose 182, we could be tipping back down to 180, but this has potential to try to rebound. For Meta, we look a little bit more bullish after the port news, and also because of the fact that we held support today after bullish analysts gave us some good ratings. Meta is doing a good job. So A 585 to 590 is a strong possibility. This might try to rebound. If we lose 574, it might be dipping, but I think this is favoring upside. I think that Microsoft is looking a little bit more bearish, but if 414 holds, so it hit my target of 414. If it loses 414, we're going to be dumping to 409, by the way. If we hold this, 420 could be coming. So it depends on if we could hold 414 or not. We're in the middle, so we're giving it some time. Google's still holding support. So something interesting about Google is we dipped today, as I predicted, but now we're holding support. So a wick is forming here. If we hold 166.5, we're looking for a bounce for basically the 168 plus area. If we lose 166, we could be dipping back down to 165. So we will see which way this goes. So be very patient nonetheless. If DJT holds 15.7, this could rebound for the 16s. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping. So far, we're doing a good job. The VIX is looking more bullish as it's trying to break out. But here's the thing. There's two gaps right now. The VIX is it's either going to be dumping tomorrow if we get decent unemployment numbers like this to back to the 18.8 area to fill this gap before it tries to bounce again like this to fill the gap above, or it's about to just continue higher if we do see the market push tomorrow with unemployment to fill this gap. And then, the opposite. If the market gets a rug pull, then this is going to push higher before it continues to run. So if we get this dip, it's going to be because of the fact that the market might be getting a bounce before the market gets another rug pull to fill this upper gap here. We'll see which way it goes. It could go either way. With the port news, I'm a little bit more optimistic now after that news just came out. So that's a good piece of news. But who knows? It's going to depend also on unemployment. These numbers are going to be very huge. That could also affect the markets. So we'll see which way the market goes after that comes out. The 10-year looks a little bit more bullish. We'll see how the unemployment numbers affect this. It's another big factor for that. And then the dollar index, I want to say the dollar is at resistance at 102. So if we get some kind of rejection off 102 on the dollar, so if we reject here, this could actually cause the market to bounce. If we break this and we don't get some kind of rejection, that could also turn things around. So we might do something like this on the dollar where we dip a bit as the market rebounds, then it continues. If we break resistance past 102, we could be pushing even higher. This could cause the market to dip lower. So we'll see, guys. Could go either way. So right now, the market is very multifaceted, which means that we have a lot of different factors affecting us. Um, for now, in my opinion, I think that the market could dip. It could go either way depending on these factors. When it comes to like SPY, the QQQ, and the others, there's hope for both sides. But we have one good piece of news: the port strikes ending is more good than bad. That is more bullish, but whether or not we get a bullish move is going to depend a lot also on the unemployment numbers. So if these are bullish alongside the port news, the market should get a nice bounce tomorrow. If even if we have decent news coming out from the port news, a decent reaction. If we get bad unemployment numbers tomorrow, the market could still get a big rug pull. So you want to be open minded to all of that. So we will see what happens. Remember, if we get a 4.4% or higher for unemployment, that's going to cause the market to dip most likely. If unemployment is decent, the market could try to rebound. It could just be a trap that was set. So with that being said, as far as Tesla goes, Tesla's technically it's a little bit more bearish. It's making lower highs and lower lows. If we lose 238, we're looking for a rug pull on Tesla to the mid 230s or below. If we hold that and try to rebound, we could be looking for 250 plus. There's a possible falling wedge like structure that's developing, so we will see if we get a bounce or not. If we get back above 244, that's going to be confirmation that this thing may attempt to push higher to our 50 EMA to about 247 and eventually 250. So we will just have to wait and see, guys. I know that typically I like to be a lot more confident about my predictions. I do tend to give predictions with high confidence a lot of the time, but today is a very, very big exception. So, excuse me. We will see how things go, and we'll be watching this data very carefully. I'll be back tomorrow morning before the market opens, so please have a great day, night, or evening. And one more reminder, anytime I go over data on this channel, I'm referring to Eastern Standard Time, which is New York time in the United States for those who are in different countries. I'm referring to American time. The New York Stock Exchange time is always using New York. It's always using Eastern Standard Time, so always remember that. That's what I'm referring to. The data comes out an hour before the American markets open, so please be ready for that as well. All right. Anyways, I'll be back tomorrow for another update. I thank you all so much for listening. We'll see if the falling wedge pans out for Tesla or not. I'm not biased. I'm trying to be unbiased when I say we could go either way, but watch your data just to be safe, and we'll see how things go. All right. Thank you for listening, and peace out.